Platchums.
Have we done an intro or is this it?
This is the intro. Welcome to
Welcome
month number two.
to, I'm putting up four fingers, month 2 of the Platinum Club, where we will be discussing Pyre, which was our choice for June 2022. So, Dan, did you get the plat?
I had the plat, so yeah.
Oh, of course. I finished the game, but I didn't get the platinum. So
Okay.
one of the co-hosts did not get the platinum, and the other one played it about a year ago. I think you played it recently enough.
Yeah, no recent. Yeah, I think it was the end of last year. Yeah, so
End of
actually,
last
yeah,
year.
that was
So
quite a while ago.
it's fresh. So
It's still fresh. Yeah.
as always, thank you for leaving your thoughts and feelings in our Discord. That's where we'll be reading the comments, and where if you want to join us next month, you can leave your feedback and just discuss the game. But we haven't disclosed what that game will be just yet. Build up the hype. So anyway, we'll just kind of jump straight in. So the first comment we got was from Cosmic Kitten, tremendous name. And Cosmic Kitten says, just finished up Pyre and I loved every second of it, especially the music and the art. It really was a beautiful game. And I'm not sure I would have ever checked it out if it wasn't for the Plat Club. So thank you. That's nice to hear, because I think that's kind of what we're going for, you know, like games that you might not play otherwise. Like we're trying to be that cool guy or girl that worked in, like, you know, the Blockbuster.
HMV.
Yeah, or like HMV or something, to go like, hey, you should really check out this band. Only like 3 people know about them, and there's 4 people in the band, you know. So we're trying to that's nice. I'm glad you enjoyed it. So the best part was getting to know each of the members of the Nightwings and learning their stories, especially how they interacted with the other teams. I actually think I want to play through again to see if there is more between certain characters. There is also an opponent I regret not liberating. Which brings me to my only complaint with the game, and it's very minor. I wish there was a new game plus. I would have had fun finishing maxing out everyone while I go through it again. So yeah, pretty positive. I can see why a game like this, you know, if it's like RPG elements, that a new game plus is a bit of a missed opportunity, because if you want to play through it again, you're starting from scratch. But that also kind of goes against like the main mechanics of the game. In a way, if everyone's already maxed out, that they've to eventually be worthy to be liberated. So if everyone, like, I don't know, I think that's where like New Game Plus and like the story and what they're kind of going for maybe doesn't match up. But I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's one of those games that does suffer a little bit from, only giving you kind of all the fun mechanics towards the end. Like getting all the unlocks and getting the whole team as well. Because some of the later characters are some of the more fun characters to use, I thought.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think having the option to kind of continue on and see, afterwards, I suppose, obviously depending on what ending you kind of choose or who you choose to liberate and stuff. Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of scope there for there to be an NG plus. And even the fact that, you maybe even just the kind of new game plus that you start again and then you just keep your unlocks, but then the story starts again, that kind of thing.
Yeah, no, like I agree with you, because that was, I haven't played Hades, but after playing Pyre for the Platinum Club, I played Bastion, I played Transistor, and I've played Pyre. So kind of 3 out of the big 4 from Supergiant games, and so far that is the one constant between each of the 3 games I have played, that like it only becomes really fun and engaging to play at like the late game stage, by which point you don't have much time to experiment or really get to grips with all the mechanics.
Yeah.
Like it's yeah, it was Pyre as well, because it's so kind of basic in its main gameplay loop, like that it's kind of sorely missing like the kind of gameplay range that all the other characters give it, just to kind of mix it up. I felt like it was kind of almost too late to show its full hand. And also, you've liberated characters without knowing what type of characters come in the future. I guess, a new game will kind of help, stem that, but you never get like the full deck in a way.
Yeah.
Like you're
Plus,
already like, yeah.
At the end of the game, you're like probably a little bit tired of doing the rights because you've done them so often. And then I suppose by the end of the game, when it starts to get like a little bit more interesting with more better characters and stuff, it would be cool to have maybe an option of more characters unlocked towards the start of the game.
No, absolutely. But anyway, thank you for commenting, Cosmic
Yeah.
Kitten. So
great. And
who's
our first platinum achiever of
yes,
the month
boy,
as well.
Cosmic
Yeah.
Kitten.
Well
Platinum
done.
Club Hall of Fame for Pyre.
Okay, cool. Our next comment is from Stephen Silston. So also completed Pyre and don't quite have the same high praises.
Ooh, Stephen coming in hot.
Yeah, this is a good take. Started off extremely strong. The rights were so satisfying and the story was actually interesting. That feeling continued for the first few hours of the campaign.
I feel like it's not going to continue.
Yeah. After completing the first liberation rite, the game barely innovates on the gameplay besides adding a few new characters. I would have loved if they added in new elements to mix things up, but it's pretty much the first part of the game replicated multiple times. The intrigue of the rites wore off quickly and it was hard to get through it for me. Going forward, I'll stick with the versus mode since the gameplay is still exciting. I just didn't want to keep replaying the same thing for 10 hours. So he's given an enjoyment of 7 out of 10, difficulty 4 out of 10. But still thanks us for recommending it. Yeah, no, that's I think that's very, we kind of touched on that a little bit there. I think it's very fair feedback. I think the game does lack a little bit of variety.
We did say it would be divisive in the announcement video, and this is kind of the thing that I was worried about. I'm actually a little bit on board with Stephen. That's kind of why I haven't got the plat yet.
Yeah.
By the time I kind of finished up, like I was kind of playing it after work, kind of over the course of like a week or so, kind of the tail end of June, and it was like an hour or two every evening, and by the 4th or 5th evening I was kind of, I mean, the rights are all flat. They're just flat. Like I was expecting at some point, when characters could kind of jump, that it might be that the opposition Pyre might be on like a raised terrain, or the ball might start on like a raise, or the orb might start up somewhere else, but no, it's just flat. Now some of them have like death pits, or like lava or crevices that you can fall into, but that's legitimately the depth it goes to kind of mix up the gameplay environment. Like, and I feel like when there's such a limited scope for just traversal in a level, because like Rocket League, you're not going to complain that it's all the same thing, but the game is oddly deep in how you can like approach the gameplay, or even like something like FIFA, because it does have a bit in common with those games. It's like it is kind of like a sports game in its own way. I kind of agree with Stephen with that it doesn't change the kind of loop at all, and it is inherently the same thing over and over again. And by the time you kind of get like, if you know what to expect in terms of how to like stack your roster, or who to liberate, the kind of suit your gameplay style more, it's kind of almost over.
Yeah.
So
I think like if I found that if the ball was in play for more than like 15 seconds, you'd royally messed something up. So yeah, it was very, very once you kind of got the rhythm down, you should have been scoring like pretty much within like 2 or 3 seconds.
Just Sir Gillum, just speedster. And then just just have it where I'm just rotating between the speedster and the one that could fly. And it was like you have it done. So
and I think the main reason why this game never made as much of a splash as Hades did is because Hades is kind of completely the opposite of your criticism of this game. Hades gives you all the tools pretty early. And all the gameplay is there, and then it's just kind of you constantly experimenting the whole way through, so it never gets old. So that's why Hades is loved so
maybe
much,
that's why Hades broke through again. I haven't played it yet. It's downstairs, waiting to be played, but maybe that's why it connected, because I mean, all of Supergiant games have had a wonderful art style, have had fantastic music, and they've had like a bit of like an atmosphere that's very, very unique. And a lot of them had like obviously a story, to them, but it's more of like an interpreted story. It's not like they're not, it's kind of left open to the imagination a little bit. There's
Yeah.
probably more to it if you go digging or if you go kind of applying meaning to it.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, I think Hades, it like based on what you're saying there, it kind of took the main criticism that I have of Pyre and the earlier games, and maybe they learned from it, and we're just
Yeah.
like, look, here's all the tools. Let's combine everything that really, really works, but actually let the player experiment. God
Yeah.
forbid.
And we've said that about Supergiant before as well, is that their games nearly feel like an evolution of the one that came before it.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I think that that's why, Hades does kind of take the better parts of these games. But yeah, I think great comments, Stephen. I think it's very, very valid. And, I'm glad you got the platinum anyway.
Yeah, well done. You against all enjoyment. So next up is Moto Combat. Hello, good sir. Always good to see Moto in the comments. So he said this was a very enjoyable platinum. The rights were fun and the characters were cool. It also became more and more difficult to pick the character to liberate. I agree. Some of them I chose just because I liked them and wanted to set them free. Very good game. After this one, I will definitely play the other games from Supergiant Games. Thanks for moving Pyre up in my backlog queue. You're welcome. We barely did anything. Yeah, no, like that was the hardest thing. I kind of immediately settled into like the kind of group that I liked. But then they were the only ones that became worthy for liberation as it went on because I was mainly using them. So that's kind of nice that like that worthiness kind of it's almost like an incentive to experiment. So you always have like your favorites in your pocket. Otherwise, you're just left with, you have to get rid of your favorites. So like it's almost like a slight punishment for sticking with the same team. So that was kind of cool. I like that aspect of it.
It's also like if you're working in a job and you're really good at that job, you will sometimes be passed over for a promotion because your manager would not want you to have to leave. So you're doing such a good job that you're actually kind of hurting yourself.
Unpromotable. You're so good. They just
so
can't.
Good.
Yeah, a promotion would be a waste of your talents.
It would just hurt the greater team. So that's why why those people, those specific characters weren't getting liberated, just because they were so fun to be around.
And I like to think that's why I've never been promoted. Anyway, so thank you, Moda. So who's next, Dan?
So we got Beautiful Torment, who got the platinum before the Platinum Club, but still shared their thoughts, which is great. So
share the knowledge. That's what I like about the Platinum Club. Even if you haven't or aren't going for the game actively and you already have the platinum, you can still help some people out, by coaching them. You're like the retired coach that comes back for one more game.
Yeah, and I think we know Beautiful Torment has a pretty amazing trophy list. So I think he's well established. So it's going to be a good opinion, or a learned opinion at least.
So a scholarly opinion on trophies.
A scholarly one. I'll just reiterate my initial thoughts when I heard this was announced, since I already had the plat. I was pretty concerned that this game would be off-putting to some based on how strange, unique the gameplay is, and that it may push people away from Supergiant games. In my opinion, it's definitely a worthwhile game, but their weakest. It has an excellent soundtrack thanks to the genius that is Darren Korb, and I've come to expect that in all their games. I'm pleasantly surprised to see all the comments stating how much people enjoyed it. Glad to see it. I think that's very fair. I think I would probably say it's my least favorite Supergiant game. I think that's
out of the ones I played, I think Transistor was definitely my favorite. And then, to be honest, I prefer the gameplay in Bastion. Oh no.
Gameplay was fun in Bastion, especially because it's an older game. But I think I like the world more in Pyre.
I love the idea of Pyre. I think there was something so cool about people competing in order to be liberated, and you kind of have this ragtag bunch of people, and you're going in your little boat, helicopter, everything kind of vehicle, airship. Yeah, no, that was actually fantastic. So I don't know, it's kind of interchangeable. Not the one is necessarily worse, and I appreciated Bastion and Pyre kind of in different ways because they are actually quite different games.
Yeah, but I think like the core of a Supergiant game is a really well polished game
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
set in a really nice arty world with an amazing soundtrack. So I think
Seems their
if
go-to.
you, yeah, if you, even if you like didn't particularly enjoy Pyre, I think you can kind of get a good idea if you're gonna like other Supergiant games from it, just from the world building in the game.
Yeah, I feel like Transistor, for me anyway, based on what I've played, that would be like my go-to recommendation for Supergiant games.
Yeah,
But yeah, so like it's again like even if it's overly positive, overly negative, I can appreciate, you know, each side's argument because it is kind of that like it's so close to being something more than it is. But
yeah, yeah, I would agree.
it's still very good. But anyway, thank you, beautiful Torment, for the comment, and we're on Daff Y Drag Raid 94 again. I believe it's Welsh, so it's Welsh is not my friend as a language. So I have some mixed thoughts on Pyre as a whole. Whilst I enjoyed the game's art style and soundtrack, I find the rights were massively underwhelming. Considering how much effort went into the story and the characters you play alongside, the rights really felt like an afterthought and got repetitive very quickly. Whilst it's not a bad game by any means, it's not amazing either in my view. Thanks for suggesting it. I'll be sure to check out Supergiant's other games in the future. I was expecting, thanks for suggesting it, you fuckers. Again, I probably have mixed thoughts as well on it. Like that'd probably be how yeah, as I said, I was just surprised. I know it sounds weird, but just how flat the rights continually were. I was expecting some like, diversity in the geography of the arenas and stuff, but it was fundamentally the same
Yeah,
every time.
there definitely could have been like, there could have been modifiers, or there could have been, certain things. They could have definitely expanded a little bit on the core game, I think. Absolutely.
Yeah. Like absolutely, or maybe like to be able to control two characters at once, kind of Brothers Tale of Two Sons style, where like with the right analog stick to kind of mix it up and make it a bit, I don't know, maybe I'm just like destroying the mechanics of the game, and like that's why you don't develop games with idiot ideas like that. But no, thanks for the comment, Ride. Appreciate it. And you got the platinum in 1 day and 46 minutes.
Yeah,
Jesus,
no,
dominated it.
I'm familiar with that trophy list, or that trophy. That's someone who's extremely skilled. So
yeah, no,
yeah.
like I've seen their trophy list before.
Okay, cool. Next up, yeah. Next up, we've got Lost NZ Kazakage. Again, probably butchered that. Apologies. So I just finished up Pyre, and first of all, I'm so happy it was recommended. Otherwise, I would have never played it. I absolutely love everything about it. Best two things were the music and character development. It made me sad having to liberate people, but then also happy for them. The rights were really unique and enjoyable enough. Enjoyable enough, to clarify. I feel like the cast would make a good anime. Music was insanely good. Overall banger of a game, and excited to see next month recommendation. Yep, that's great. And we got the screenshot there. Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's a
nice list of other games as well, in fairness.
Yeah, very nice list of other games. Yeah, I think again that's probably kind of similar to some other people there. I think enjoyable enough is the kind of key takeaway there. I think they're being very kind.
No, like they were fun. They really were fun.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
I mean, like it just never. Yeah, you kind of got like a good mix of like different ways to approach, like each match. But I mean, it didn't really encourage it because if you just settled on, again, as I said, the 2 or 3 that you just knew, it didn't matter. Like the maps weren't set up in a certain way where like it kind of favored, one character over another, or encouraged.
They tried to bring it in, didn't they? I think that like at the start of some of them, they're like, "Please use me."
Yeah. So you're kind of forced to use them. But as I said, the little crevices where you're like, "Oh, if you jump and you fall in, oh, I'm gone." what wants you on that? I keep forgetting the one that can fly, but you know, Sir Gilliam are on the speedsters and a flyer, and like you're winning, like, and there is no reason for me to change that
Yeah,
at all. Because I was not, you know, I think they had like there was one or two instances in the story where they feel unwell, and I was like, did they do that? Where like the characters feel unwell and they aren't able to do it right to make you play as other characters.
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, because it's just like, oh, I'm sick. I've been carrying the team on my back, which in fairness they
Yeah,
were like,
they were. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and I
um,
agree that the cast definitely is kind of one of the strongest points of the game, is that, you know, there is such a great diversity there, and
it
they
would
all
make
have
a
their little
yeah,
story and
it
stuff. Yeah,
would make a good anime. And like I did
yeah,
like the little conversations you could have. I do think the game was a little bit weaker for not having actual voice acting. I don't
yeah.
know if it was a makey uppy language. I could be, you know, I don't know. It's what language was it in?
I'm going to Google this
Google it. No,
before
I
I
know.
say anything.
Nathan, that's French, you idiot. There are
Yeah,
no in English.
fictional language.
Yeah,
Sarian.
yeah.
Sarian.
So
Yeah.
I do think that's
That would have
because
been pretty embarrassing. Yeah.
yeah, that would have been no. I said that with 98% confidence.
Yeah. Yeah. No,
I'm not
I
the most
wasn't confident.
linguistically talented person in the world, but I know a makey uppy language when I hear it. So I did think that limited the storytelling possibility because it kind of eroded away the personality of each character. Now, with the writing, it still kind of came through, and I guess with the, the what was the name of the I'm going to keep saying makey uppy language when they're speaking makey uppy. I feel like it's not as a good a window into the characters. Um, that's just me. I mean, you're limited if you're going for the kind of graphic novel, comic book style of storytelling, and I think the lack of voice acting, just after a while, I just zoned out and just didn't even have enough. I know for me that kind of because they had voice acting, so I don't know. I feel like it limited them
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
how attached to the characters I could become. Um, yeah, but that
Like, yeah, I think it's very interesting that they went with like a completely fictional language, because, you know, I'm sure
you were
the
going to
amount
say
of
makey
work
uppy word.
I'm sure that the amount of work that went into that, like, far probably outweighed even the amount of effort it would have taken to get everyone voiced
Yeah, yeah,
doing it
and
like
I
that.
think for a kind of lesser results, maybe, or kind of a kind of blockade in how attached people could become emotionally. Maybe that's just me.
Yeah,
Um,
well, it was like there for lore purposes, because it kind of ties in with the theme, or the you know the I suppose the story of the game, and the state of the world at that point and
yeah,
stuff.
no, like
So
it is in keeping with the rules and the world that they set up. So I appreciate it for that, but I just think, for my experience, maybe just the way in which I was playing it, after a while, I was kind of zoned out. And I was still reading, like the subtitles, but I feel like you just lose a little window into the characters, because if it is just you don't need to listen,
yeah, yeah.
like that's just me. That's just me. Anyway,
Anyway,
thank
okay.
you, Kazakagi, whichever you prefer. So next up was Vigilant Crow. Uh, a mainstay of the Platchums community at this point is Vigilant Crow. And he said, I enjoyed Pyre for the most part. I'm sensing a trend. It had a good range of characters and they played differently during rights. Game difficulty could increase or decrease without affecting trophies, which was nice. I played my first playthrough on hard +12 and coasted an easy +0 to finish a missed trophy. Good pick overall. I don't see why it would have been a divisive pick. I feel like the comments above yours possibly are testament to why
Yeah,
it was probably a divisive pick.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think
not a
it's
whole lot to say.
interesting.
Good job on that.
I think it's interesting. Like, definitely, I'd say the gameplay is probably more enjoyable. Like, the rights probably are slower to lose their appeal when you are playing them much harder, because like that's when
Yeah,
tactics and stuff come into it. Like, I can't remember what I played on. I think I just played on like kind of the default one, whatever it
I
was.
played on standard.
Yeah, I
And
think
I
like
didn't change. Like I wouldn't say struggle, but there was a couple of rights where like I'm like, okay, I need to change it up here.
yeah.
Um,
So I'd say like hard plus 12 probably, brings in a lot of extra kind of
that
tactics that you might need to do and
that's a
stuff.
fair
So
point. That's it. Probably adds a lot more to it. In fairness, like I think that's a good point. In fairness.
yeah, cool.
Well, thank you,
Next
Crow.
up, thank you, Crow. Yeah, and next up is Vidbaka. So firstly, another good recommendation. Thank you. 2 games into the Platinum Club, and I'm already chomping for next for the next game. Yeah.
Okay, just for you, feedback. It's Terminator Salvation.
It's absolutely not. But this is my first Supergiant Games Platinum, and now I'm looking forward to adding Transistor, Bastion, and Hades to the trophy cabinet in the future.
Clean
I would
sweep.
describe, yeah, absolutely. I would describe this game as a Telltale style game with very enjoyable game of cosmic basketball.
Cosmic basketball.
Yeah, that's very fair. Crow's visually stunning, but higher praise must go to Darren Korb for the accompanying audio ear candy. It elevated the gameplay tenfold. Yeah, and I think he's probably one of the most prolific.
Oh, he deserves all the praise, like all the praise in the world.
Yeah, him and Austin. What's his name? Austin, the one from Journey. He does all those as well.
We'll flash it on screen. We'll flash it on screen.
Yeah. Is it Austin? I'm not going to say the second name because I could be talking about something completely different. Anyway, great characters with fleshed out backgrounds, and especially enjoyed when Falcon Ron showed up with his traveling shop. Yeah, that was nice. I always liked that. It always, I don't know, was it always random what he had? But
he was a cool character.
Yeah, it was nice to have kind of that little side market gameplay.
Yeah, like what are you buying?
So cons, it did get a little repetitive from the halfway point, and the amount of storytelling can be a bit overwhelming with the numerous textual prompts. That said, they are necessary evil in the style game. Yeah, I think you were just saying that you're Nate, like that. I think maybe the style of storytelling was possibly kind of like a love it or hate it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Or maybe lukewarm it. I think it was just
no, like I think it can be done well, but I do think when you kind of go with a fictional language, I do think you limit the emotional storytelling possibilities of the story.
Yeah. And
even in my opinion, it can still be done super, super well. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not completely saying, oh, you can't use a fictional language. I mean, look at the Lord of the Rings. But I just feel like for this type of game, because it is kind of like flat, it's like, with the gameplay loop being mainly the rights. I mean, I feel like it needed all the help it could get to really sell the story.
Yeah. Well, like, I think usually fictional languages kind of work when they're bounced off a real language as well.
Yeah.
When it's within the context of maybe the world in which we know it, and then it's used as a tool to show like a different culture or something like that. That it can definitely work in that context. But yeah, and I felt that the way, like, the fact that it was all like textual meant that it was kind of, to me, the story never gripped me as much as I think it should have, or at least as much as it was intended to, because even when you're like talking to people, it all happens within the kind of the confines of the room, or before the rites or something, but there's no like tangible conversations with these people anywhere. Like you don't have a body, which means that it's kind of hard for you to feel like you are talking to them in a way. So I was thinking of like, it would have been cool to have like a hub area or something where you could actually walk around and talk to your team. That would, for me, would have made it
because my favorite scenes were when there was more than like, 2 characters, when they were all bouncing off each other. I thought that was like really great. That was kind of like the height of like the storytelling for me, and like just the little character interactions. But for the most part, it's like there is one person in the wagon sitting there in between rights, or like when you go to the shop, or when you see the little ellipses in the bottom left corner where you can go and talk to someone.
Yeah.
It just wasn't enough for like it was such a good cast of characters, and they were quite well realized in fairness for such like confines being put on them, as you said. But yeah, like I know, like I still think it was a strong suit, but it could have been better utilized. It's such a wonderful mixed bag of a game. No, like you have to just admire what they did well.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, thank you, Fid Baka. Got the platinum in 3 days, 17 hours. God, you're tearing it up, guys. So next up is Dazafet, another mainstay of the Platchums community. So thank you for playing and for leaving this comment. So Pyre has been installed on my PS5 for quite some time after I picked up all the Supergiant games last year. Platinum Club has again come up trumps in helping one of the lesser known games rise to the top of my to play list. I really didn't know what to expect from the game as I bought it based on a recommendation and Supergiant's reputation. I have to say I'm pleasantly surprised, and it's completely different from any other game I previously played. In fairness, this isn't quoting now, just sidebar. That's actually a fair point. It was so unique. I've not played a game. I've not played anything like it. Like it's just a wonderful mix mesh of different things. So like that is, if you want to play something unlike anything else, like play Pyre. The graphics, art style, music are a feast for the senses and really draw you into the world they've created. Conducting the rites was great fun, and the variety of different skills and attributes of the various team members made it really cool to mix things up to try out different play styles. I disagree. I stuck with 3 people. Overall, my only gripe with the game was perhaps a slight imbalance between the amount of time spent reading against the amount of action in the gameplay for my taste. However, I accept it was necessary for world building purposes due to the action being of a very specific type. Had the game been double the length, then the small gripe would have been more of an issue for me, but they got the game length just about right for it to not be too much of a problem. Pyre is the second Supergiant game I've platinumed after completing Bastion a few months ago, and although it's a completely different type of game, the Supergiant signature is all over it. This makes me really excited to play Transistor and Hades in the future. Overall, a fantastic pick for the Platinum Club, and overall enjoyment for me was 8 out of 10. And as a little spoiler thing, but I'm going to read it anyway because it's a video about Pyre and we're 30 minutes in. For the record, I also did the decent thing and chose not to free myself. I didn't free myself either, in fairness. I was tempted to. I'm just like, dickhead ending. Good luck. Thanks for the comment, Daza. Again, I completely agree with you. I do think it started to drag for me towards the end. It's like I might go back and get the platinum at some point if I feel in the mood to the mood to knock out those versus trophies. But I think you're in for a treat with Transistor. I mean, if you really like Bastion, you really like this, you're gonna love Transistor, and I think you might adore Hades based on word of mouth anyway. So I would definitely get on those fairly quick because I don't think those would be 2 games that we'll do on Platinum Club. In fairness, I mean, Transistor was like on PlayStation Plus years ago, and I think Hades has gotten enough of a leg up to not need us to eat. It's recommending it. So yeah, well, what do you think, Dan?
Yeah, I think they're really, really well thought out and articulated points. I agree with pretty much all of that. I do think that maybe that balance, I suppose, is did the game run on a little too long, and I think it was just right for Daza, but then it was maybe a little bit too long for other people. And I think he hits on the point that I was kind of trying to make, is that the storytelling being so always happening within the confines of the airship or like that, or before the rights and stuff, it didn't feel like there was enough of a draw to pull me into the story. And had there been some type of had they meshed it a little bit more with the gameplay or something, or had some type of kind of control over that would have, to me, made it a little bit more real. But yeah, I think they're really, really great points.
And platinum in 5 days for 7 minutes and a platinum screenshot. Well,
very nice.
Hey, it's a nice platinum screenshot. So next up is Truth.
Yeah, you could kind of take a screenshot from anywhere in the game and it would look nice. It's that kind of game.
In fairness,
Cool. So Truth, always great to see Truth's comments. Me and Truth go way back on the platinum, in Platchums as well, of course.
Platchums, shout out.
Yeah. So Pyre really wasn't for me. I liked it at first, but the repetitive gameplay and text-based story meant I got invested a few times, but it didn't stick much. And I'm glad the Platinum only took one playthrough and was only about 11 hours. Too much longer, I might have gotten sick of it. The presentation was awesome. The music was great. It was just the repetitiveness and the amount of reading versus gameplay that bothered me. 6 out of 10 for me, but still a good game, and I'm glad it was recommended. I'd have never played it otherwise, even though it's not really for me. I'm glad I played it. Yeah, that's a very fair summary.
Measured, reasonable comment there, and there's nothing
quite
I
similar
can say.
to Daza as well above.
And nothing I would
same points.
can say I disagree with. As well. Like I probably, I mean, giving it a mark out of 10 is always kind of like arbitrary. Like it'd probably be like a 7 for me. If I had to put a number on it. So I'm really glad I played, and I did really enjoy it. Just certain like aspects of it kind of dragged on, So thanks, Truth. Always good to see you. So next up is Gaylino X. Got the Platinum 2, as mentioned already. The art style and music is amazing, as always, the Supergiant. That is just the one constant throughout every season. It's like, it's just objectively fantastic. I thought this game had a very interesting concept, but does get a little repetitive. Characters were awesome. The game does well in giving you the opportunity to play and get to know all of them. And how awesome the credits are at the end. That was kind of a cool thing. They're all in like the room, and you could kind of talk individually to them and stuff. Like everyone that was involved in the story, all the characters. That was very cool. Anyway, thanks for the recommendation. Also love reading about everyone's experiences in the club. So thank you so much, Lino, and a Platinum screenshot as well to boot. So I think Lino just highlighted, just echoed again, just the one constant. Soundtrack and characters and stuff were fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, and the credits were great as well.
Okay, so who's next?
Riazor. Great music and art style. Gameplay was a bit repetitive. Felt the rights got old by the middle of the game. Overall, a 6 out of 10. Difficulty 4 out of 10.
I feel like that's the second time that exact mark has come up.
Yeah.
So in fairness, but you got the Platinum 4 days, 8 hours, so it didn't take up too much of your time. In fairness, but thanks a million for the comment. Next up is Wild Zubat appears. Tremendous name. The game is awesome, but the trophy list makes it so much worse. Wish I had just gone through the story and made my own choices instead of constantly worrying about missables. Turns out I still managed to screw up my save file by intentionally failing the first liberation rite for a bronze. I'm not going to complete the challenge this month, but we'll probably get back to it in the future. Not a great experience with the game, it seems. Fair to say for Zubat. In fairness, I didn't get the plat either. But if you do want to go back and finish it, maybe just keep an eye out for that, because there was one, there was like 1 or 2 if you liberate the big tank one,
Jodiel
or something. You can kind of lock yourself out of a trophy later on. It's always unfortunate when you like get a save file screw up is what I was going to say. So look, I hope at some point you go back to it and you can seamlessly get the Platinum Zubat. So we apologize for inadvertently causing you trauma. Save file related trauma. We're sorry.
I don't like hearing anyone suffering with a missable either. It's I think it was a difficult one, because I tried to kind of alert that there was some missables in it, but you don't want to spoil the story on anyone either. It's kind of a hard one, because that trophy is very tied in with the story, and you can't be like, oh, don't liberate her, until
because we want people to go in with a kind of a clear mind with it. It is a funny one, because you're kind of treading a line of like, obviously people will want to get the Platinum, but we obviously just want to recommend really good games that we hope people just enjoy for what they are first and foremost, without getting spoiled kind of going in. So it's a very tricky line, because I wouldn't go and say like we consciously avoid games with missables, because I know there's like 1 or 2 games like on the big Platchums list of potential Platinum Club games that like they do have missables, and you probably will need to follow a guide, but I think they're so worth playing that it's worth you know, that if you want to play it like that, because you can always just not look at a guide, you know, like if you want to go in blind, do 2 playthroughs, you know, like we're not going to like, you're not beholden to get the platinum or whatever. It's first and foremost good games. So yeah, it's just unfortunate that Subat went through that, but look, we'll hopefully hopefully won't cause that again in the future. So who's next?
I know how much like a situation like that can sting though, so yeah, sorry about that, Zubash, but you know, look. Okay, next up we've got Face Palmer. So where do I begin with Pyre? Well, basic concept is if you combine Blitzball, NBA Jam with Oregon Trail, Pyre is what you would get. Yeah, I think that's
I can see that. I can see that, Face Palmer. Yeah.
I think I said Blitzball before as well. I think I would agree with you on Blitzball. That was what it felt like to me, you know, with the just passing the ball and stuff. But although Blitzball always felt a little bit more random, but more tactical as well. I still don't really understand Blitzball.
No one does.
So from the start to finish, I was engrossed in the story, gameplay, art style, and damn that music. Yet again, Supergiant hit it out of the park with this game. Throughout the game, every decision I had to make had an impact. No spoilers, but damn, it makes you really think about every move you make. Again, cannot stress enough how much I enjoyed this game. One highlight for my trophy hunting journey with this game was tackling the 12 Titans. These kind of work to make the game much harder.
Yeah, they do.
I'm struggling to read. I'm sorry, because I'm in a dark room and I'm very far away from my tiny laptop. Took me a while.
The laptop for ants? Okay, I'll take over.
I can get it. I can get it. But just that's why I'm kind of squinting. Took me a while, but managed to win a match. To my shock and horror, it turned out I only had 11 of 12 of them. Oh, actually, something it was kind of similar.
It was kind of awkward to see.
It was.
Like, they were all on. Yeah. They were kind of like, it wasn't like that clear, so I can understand why you made that mistake.
The same kind of thing happened to me with Bastion as well. I thought I had them all enabled, and again in Bastion, it's kind of that same constellations. You know, that's the multipliers. You know, this is not where it ends. So the story gets worse. So with this, I decided to tackle another team. Last chance in my playthrough. Made sure to 100% turn them on this time. So the match starts, and it turned out my opponents were so embarrassed that I would beat them. They showed the game. Thus, I win by default and got the trophy. Again, brilliant choice, and I hope a lot of people appreciate it as much as I did. Also, would highly recommend watching this making of video. Finish the game first, as there's spoilers. That's
no
great.
clips. I actually haven't seen that that documentary. I've seen a good few of No Clips documentaries. Again, headed by an Irishman. Just to say, good old Danny.
No, that's a great review.
It is.
I'm glad that trophy worked out positively for you, because I couldn't handle another trophy nightmare.
Like, not another Subat. No, another Subat appears. Great comment. Like the Titan stars or the constellations, whatever. Like they really did like make a difference. I normally play with like 4 of them on standard difficulty. That was kind of like my mix, like 3 to 4. Like I hated the one that increased the enemy's presence or their quickness. I just thought that those two, when they were turned on, made it like the quickness was just a bastard. I felt that because it just nullified, you know, good old Sir Gillum, like and a plat screenshot as well. So thanks, Face Palmer. Always good to hear your thoughts. So we've got Pierce C14. Final thoughts on Pyre. Trying to explain this game to friends was weird. Saying it's like basketball, but also reading a book at the same time. What the fuck are you playing? I got asked a few times, LOL, why when giving someone a talisman did it look like they would shove it up their ass? jokes. LOL. Shout out to Dazafet for supplying the last of this sample. That was a hilarious comment that they're gonna get like shove it up their arse. I will say that I know I kind of understand why some people like visual novels, because the times between the writes, I would enjoy reading someone's backstory or how they were getting on in the Commonwealth. Favorite characters was the first three: Rookie, Jordario, and Hedwin. Then closely followed by Sarah Gilman. Gilman was my boy. I would never have played this if it wasn't suggested in the Platinum Club. So hats off, getting people to try new games. I enjoyed it. Would rate it a solid, decent out of 10. Until next time, Nightwings. And the Plat screenshot just there with the three boyos. Yeah, no, it was a game that well, I was playing. I wouldn't know how to explain this game to anyone. Like, so you just have to kind of play it. But yeah, I hope that becomes a running joke in the Platinum Club, or like just any sort of talisman or power up. It's like, why do they shove it up their ass? Just in every
game we suggest has to have that animation. Yeah.
But anyway, thanks a million, Pierce. And next up, are you good to read on your tiny laptop?
Yeah.
From space.
I think I actually do have glasses. I got them in like 2015. I just
I've never seen you wear glasses. I
don't wear them at all. Okay, so Burge 2190 done 2 out of 2, and I have to say I would never play this if it wasn't for the club, and I won't be playing it again. I can concur. It definitely not a shit game. It's actually really good. Sort of Hades meets Def Jam meets Blitzball. If I was reviewing, I would give it an 8. That said, I didn't enjoy it much. I'm sure someone with better taste in games and more attuned appreciation of art than myself would love it, but I didn't have the attention span to enjoy the story enough to keep me interested in the repetitive gameplay. There are high points, like the characters. Sir Gilman is going in my will, and I'm glad I played it. But after the 40th game of put the ball in the hole, I was pretty done. 10 out of 10 is a suggestion. I feel 8% more hipster. Yeah, that's
that is a fantastic
brilliant review.
That is a fantastic comment.
Like I personally, like I kind of felt the same with the story. I kind of like, I was reading it and I was like, yeah, I really should be kind of getting this a bit more. Like I really should be into this.
Yeah,
more,
I was a little bit glazed over toward like the last couple of days. I'm like,
I was kind of thinking like, if I was maybe a bit more of a, an intellectual, maybe I don't.
If you had more attuned appreciation of art, right? Yeah. More attuned appreciation. I love the iteration in that.
I think like the story definitely hit the mark for a lot of people, and I'm really delighted to see that. Like for me, I really liked it too, but I think it was more the character like ensemble that got me into the game.
It was more like, instead of like the overall arching plot, I love the premise. It was more like the little character beats that like actually would sit up and kind of really pay attention. But
yeah,
any of those cutscenes where the voice like, "You're here for liberation," right? Oh, come on. But anyway, thanks for the fantastic comment. I'm glad that you're 8% more hipster. So next up is Conquest 21 short version. Awesome idea. Visuals and music were good, however, twice as long as it needed to be. I found myself skipping text as it lost my attention. Got the platinum in a week and one day, so well done on the platinum Conquest. And essentially that was what we were just talking about leading into this comment anyway.
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. But thanks for the comment, Conquest.
Thank you. Yeah, and well done on the plat. So we've Joel H1234. Final thoughts: completed the story, but I don't think I'm going to get the platinum before the month ends, like yourself.
Like myself.
I really enjoyed the sports gameplay. It reminded me of Quidditch game I used to have on the Game Boy Advance as a kid. I think I know the one you're talking about.
Yeah, so do I. I was like, I think I know that game.
In fact, I liked the gameplay so much that I found myself skipping the visual novel stuff because I was itching to get back into a match. The RPG elements were cool too, like leveling up, skill trees, and items. I like the art style and animations very much too. I'd give it a 7.5 out of 10 overall.
Yeah, not like yeah, no, I did enjoy it. It was just begging for like towards the end of just a curveball, just to really mix it up.
Like I'm just, as you say that, I'm thinking like, you know, even something as simple as making like certain maps bigger would have been a really
bigger,
cool
yeah,
thing.
or maybe 4 characters, or as I said, just a bit of elevation or something.
Yeah, yeah,
But then again, like all the transistor games, that kind of like 2.5D almost, for like the very set way, they're very kind of flat anyway. Like there's not so
yes, yeah,
much in terms of like elevation and like layers to like the game world, in
yeah. Their
fairness.
art
So
style is always very much like a paper craft kind of
yeah,
painting
yeah,
or
like
something.
there's a
You know, it's
very
like a
specific
mixture.
camera angle as well that they kind of stick with.
Yeah,
But look, thanks a million for the comment, Joe. So Ross Toya, first of all, I will start by saying I would never have played this game if it wasn't for the Platinum Club. So thanks for that. It's quite nice to hear that a lot.
it's very nice to hear it. Yeah,
But
it's
I'm
really,
also
we really
worried in
appreciate
case
that.
like we just recommend shite.
Yeah.
But we'll see what people think of Terminator Salvation next month anyway. I really did enjoy this game. Art, music, characters, and of course the story was fantastic. One negative is gameplay for me at the middle of the game. Begun to feel like every ride was basically the same. 7 out of 10. I think we're starting to get like the Platchum community, like
Yes,
the
yeah, yeah.
overall
The group
opinion,
thought, yeah.
the group thoughts of the
Yeah.
Platchums, the greater Platchums, because we're all Platchums in our own
The
way.
Plat chum, yeah.
Yeah, the Platchum. That's we're known collectively as the Platchum.
Yeah. Just one brain.
So that was a short comment.
You know, inside.
Oh God, the end of Inside. Oh,
yeah, that's the
that's
Plat
what
chum.
that's what we are as a community. The end of
It is.
Inside.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'll just read the next one quickly as well. Give those eyes a rest.
Sure.
It's
Thank
the
you.
last one. It's the last one.
one.
So post office buddy. I know I'm late, but I just got the plat this morning. Congrats, post office buddy. Loved the story. It was very bittersweet. Jordario was my favorite character, although I basically liked all of the cast. In the end, I just said, oh, this was a spoiler tag that I unclicked. In the end, I decided to let Orlek return since I felt he had earned it. I did the same. At the end, it was Pamitha, Batruda, Fulvred, and the reader left in the downside. I'd rate this one a 9 out of 10. Better than Transistor, but not quite up to the same standard as Hades. That's high praise. That's high praise. I'm really glad you enjoyed it.
Me too.
In fairness,
and Pamitha it was trying to think
Pamitha was
of her name the
flying
whole
one.
game.
Yeah.
She was definitely my favorite.
Yeah,
also.
just mash square. This right at
She
the
was
start,
awesome.
just going right to the Pyre.
Destroyed everyone.
Yeah, and you got the platinum at 5:30 in the morning. What are you doing, man?
Go to bed.
Go to bed. No, I was like, must
or
finish
maybe up
for
early.
Platinum Club.
Maybe he works at the post office.
Oh.
Oh.
We're getting the backstory in lore post office, buddy. But yeah, so that's that concludes the June 2022 Platinum Club. Some really great comments there. I'm glad for the most part. More positive than negative, and the negative comments were all essentially about the same thing, about how repetitive it was. And I would agree with that. I would lean more towards a 7, low 8 on the scale.
I don't think anyone didn't appreciate it, at least in some capacity. And I think that
even if it's not your thing, I mean, the artwork, music, everything like that is so stellar. So like you can still not enjoy something but appreciate it.
So we do have one more review to get through though, and that's yours.
Mine.
Yeah, we didn't read what would be your final thoughts on the game if you had to put them into words.
I would say overall, I really enjoyed the music. I enjoyed the premise a lot. I thought it was a very cool premise for a story, like a group of ragtag kind of group of randomers trying to escape this kind of, to escape and kind of get out of there together, but only one person can be chosen, but they've all to work together as a team in order to like earn the liberation for their friends or who they've been fighting alongside. Like that is cool. I feel like that's like if that was done on a bigger scale, I think I'd play the shit out of that game. Like if it was like if they just someone copied that premise and put it in like a big kind of AAA production. I thought the characters were very good, and I love the artwork. I do think that the main gameplay, like the new mechanics brought in from different characters, didn't keep the game fresh enough, because at its core it was so fundamentally repetitive. I think they needed to, as you were saying, even make some maps bigger, even make them like tiny, or just some sort of elevation or variation in like the game arena itself. And one or two characters were just completely useless. I didn't really use Full for it at all. I didn't like his skill set, but again, you know, two sides of every coin. You could say, well, look, you don't have to pick them, or it's just there for experimentation. So overall, I did really like it, but I don't know if or when I'll get the Plat at this current moment in time, because I just don't have the heart to like play versus mode for a couple of hours or whatever it'll take to get it done. I didn't even really look. But I would recommend it, but as an intro to Supergiant games, my go-to is still Transistor. I feel like I did the ones I played. I'll reserve complete judgment until I play Hades, but yeah, look, I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I played it. I thought for kind of the type of game it's always nice to have some of those, play those lesser known games. And I really, really glad I played it. I just thought it was so close to being great, and I feel like one or two little additions could have elevated it to, like, you know, the heights of Transistor. So that's kind of my final thoughts. What about yours?
Yeah, I would kind of mirror pretty much everything that you said. I think the game maybe hit the mark like a little bit more, like maybe that kind of 0.5 out of 10 more for me. But I think, I can't disagree with everyone's comments on that. Like, I was definitely feeling it towards the end a little bit. I actually, as I kind of sit back and think about it and hear everyone's thoughts, the game that it kind of reminds me the most of is Final Fantasy X. And I know we've said that about Blitzball and stuff, but like there's actually kind of like a lot connected with Final Fantasy X. Now that I'm thinking about it, there's kind of
Are you doing a hidden lore video now? Is that what's happening?
Well, it's all kind of piecing together in my head. It's just like, like you've kind of got like the airship. It's got a very Final Fantasy world vibe. Then you've kind of got this, like in Final Fantasy X, you've got the summoners who are kind of picked, and then spoilers for Final Fantasy X.
The game is where, like, it's old, like
yeah, but still, like, it's such a big spoiler. But at the end of Final Fantasy X, you kind of find out about the summoners, and the kind of the rights in this game are kind of similar to what the summoners do in Final Fantasy X, to kind of protect the world, whereas in this game you're kind of getting back to the world. So a lot of similarities.
They took Final Fantasy X and were like, instead of like, we'll do it like try to get out of the world. That's different enough, right?
Yeah, it's just I see like all these kind of little comparisons there, and it's got a very Final Fantasy vibe to it as well. With like
and they're just like, get Darren on the phone. No one will complain about a game with his soundtrack.
Yeah, no, there's no game that he could touch that wouldn't have an amazing soundtrack. And is it Ashley Barrett? Is it that does the?
I couldn't tell you with 100% certainty.
Yeah, I have to just Google that, because and it was Austin Wintry that I was trying to think of earlier. Just to set the record straight. It's Ashley Barrett. Yeah, it is. Yeah. She does kind of all the singing, the vocals, kind of for Supergiant games as well.
Yeah.
And they have a really great working relationship and stuff. So yeah, I would agree. I think if you're kind of maybe listening to this video and have never played Pyre but are thinking about it and want to get into Supergiant games, I definitely don't think it's a bad game to start off with. But I would say,
like that.
Yeah, for me, you could probably play them chronologically to see that kind of evolution. But to give my thoughts on, like, just I know that you still haven't played Hades. Transistor was probably my favorite indie game of like the PS4 generation, and Hades is better than that. So that's how good Hades is to me, at least.
High praise. That's high praise. But look, we'll wrap it up. So if thank you for joining in, and look, it might be a case where like you're watching this video a year after it premieres and you're doing like a backlog Platinum Club challenge thing. So if at whatever point in time you're watching this, just thank you. And yeah, we'll reconvene for another Platinum Club same time next month. We don't know what game it's going to be though, so we can't really say what we're going to be discussing. But
Snake Eater.
Snake Eater.
It's not Terminator Salvation though.
It is Terminator Salvation. Or
Okay.
Hannah Montana. You know, it's like a history lesson. It's like, this is what grubby plats used to be. Hannah Montana.
Yeah.
It was the first grub back in the day. The first grub.
The origin story, yeah.
Of the grub. But anyway, thank you for watching, guys.
Yeah, thank you, and thanks to everyone for finishing it or playing it or leaving your thoughts. It's amazing to see everyone's reviews, so really appreciate it.
All right. Bye.
Goodbye.
Platchums!